they're born the way they're born. And as a parent, you just need to love them and support them and figure out how to help them be successful.
That is not because they are trans and non-binary. It is because society rejects them.
People get so, they get their blinders on and they get so ingrained in what they think and what they believe. And
if you only knew.
Exactly. If you only knew, if you only had an experience or something that forced you to take the blinders off, so you had to look at things a little bit differently, where could we be?
Not once have we mentioned a bathroom situation. Not once have we mentioned surgery. And those are literally the two things that everybody thinks are the most important topics in this particular conversation. Period. That's all people talk about. Bathrooms and surgery. Period. End of story. And we've gone 45 minutes in this episode and not once has that come up. So I'm just going to let that sit there for a minute.
Welcome to Drinks with the Girls. Conversations for women over 40 around connection, change, and the power of female friendship. Living well with stories to tell. I'm Karen, and this is Lisa.
We are moms and solopreneurs stepping into our own, diving into real conversations about things that matter to women in midlife.
We're here to spill the tea on everything that affects women in their 40s and beyond. Topics like loss and grief, changing relationships, launching kids, menopause, and reinventing ourselves in midlife. We are here to tackle it all.
Connect with us through a blend of our lived experiences, our friendship, the memory of our moms, plus a collection of real stories, honest conversations, and engaging interviews that will make women over 40 feel seen and remind them that they're not alone on this journey called life. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of Drinks with the Girls. I have really been looking forward to this conversation because I think it's an important one. I think I'm going to learn some things. I know you listeners are going to learn some things, and I just think it's going to be a very rich conversation. Today, we are talking to three amazing mothers of transgender children, and we're just going to get into all the things. But before we get going, I'm going to let you know what I'm drinking, and I am drinking my new favorite. So it's a sparkling water. It's called Savani, I believe.
Ooh,
and
it's very fancy.
It is so fancy because you know me, I'm fancy. But yeah, tangerine flavor, which is my go-to. Lisa, what you got?
Nice. I have gone full hop water, and I now have I'm trying all of them. So you'll love this, Karen. This one's a ruby red grapefruit hop water. And it's delightful. No vodka, no Paloma, just as God intended with lots of ice. So I'm going to introduce, and then we'll just kind of go around. So on my Brady Bunch left is my wonderful friend, Cynthia. Cynthia, why don't you tell us what you're drinking? Tell us a little bit about you and just briefly about your child.
Yeah. So hello everybody, I'm Cynthia. I am drinking something called Mingle.
Ooh.
And there's a pineapple Paloma flavor, and I love this thing. It's so delicious. And the best part about it is it's light pink and it feels very special. In the summertime, I feel like it's very refreshing.
I need to make that part of my life. Yum. Delicioso.
It's called a mocktail. They sell it as a mocktail in Whole Foods. That's where I got it from. But
sweet.
Yes, I'm a mother of two. I have a 21 and a 22-year-old. I am an empty nester. I'm divorced. I am a retail executive. I lead experience teams and design software. So that's me.
I should also probably point out, because I feel like it's an unfair advantage, these are all amazing women from my Smith class of 1990. And so I've literally known these women longer than I knew who I was, basically. So this is so fantastic to have them on there. I'm really excited. Okay, Christine is on my Brady Bunch middle, I guess. Go for it.
Hi. Well, today I am drinking a lime polar seltzer. Very New England. And I am the mother of 4 children. All of my children are adopted through foster care. I was a practicing attorney, but I stopped practicing a few years ago because one of my kids had some significant needs and he needed a full-time parent. And so I have a 21-year-old, an 18-year-old who is at his college orientation today, just down the street from our alma mater.
Which sounds like no big deal, but girl, I know what you did to make that happen. So major snaps.
Yes. And I have a 17-year-old trans son who is just a phenomenal kid. He's super hardworking, smart. He's a great student. He's the captain of his baseball team. He's just a great kid. And I have a 14-year-old daughter who's also spunky and fabulous.
Excellent. All right. And last but certainly not least, the lovely Amy Allen. What are you drinking? And talk to us a little bit about your kiddo.
So I'm drinking a Spindrift grapefruit flavor, also New England, but more Nouveau New England.
Nice.
Nouveau England.
Nice. Nouveau England. I love it.
Their headquarters are about a mile from our house in the
Wow.
Boston
Sweet.
suburbs. So very exciting. But I'm a former French and Spanish teacher and career changer. I'm now a social worker. I do in-home family therapy. And I'm a parent of two college kids, both of whom are trans. You didn't know that, did you, Lisa?
I did not.
Surprise!
Surprise!
So they're my son is going into sophomore year of college, and my daughter is going into her senior year of college. And they're both amazing human beings, very different from one another, but they get along great. They have a beautiful relationship. They're both hilarious. They're both brilliant. Our son is our visual artist, and our daughter is our musical genius. And they're a ton of fun to be with.
So fun. See, you learn all sorts of new things on this show.
So let's just start at the beginning. So I have so many questions, but let's just start in the very first place. So did any of you have an idea that your child might be trans, or was it a conversation that was had and it was kind of like a big aha moment?
With my son, we've known for a very, very, very young age. With him, it started when he was 2.5, almost 3. He had a dragon costume for Halloween, and he started insisting on wearing it everywhere. And that Christmas, I tried to get him into the most beautiful midnight blue taffeta Christmas dress that I had purchased. And he would not wear it to a Christmas party, but I was able to get him to wear it only if I promised him that he could wear the dragon costume over it. And for a long time, we couldn't figure out why. But as he became verbal, he was very clear to us that he was a boy. And I realized that the dragon costume was just his way of controlling how he chose to appear, chose to present in public. And I remember about that same time, his daycare provider had came to us, and licensed daycares in Massachusetts are required to do testing, academic testing every 6 months. And I remember our daycare saying, he got every single question right, except, are you a boy or a girl? And he kept insisting that he was a boy. And now I'm like, well, I guess he was right.
Just saying.
Just saying. So we've just always known.
Amy, how about you and your two kiddos?
So total surprise for both. Our son came out to us in middle school, and I had no idea. No idea at all. I was not completely shocked, however. Things kind of, in the back of my mind, there were things that started to make a little more sense. And then our daughter, that was also a surprise. She came out to us in high school, and that, I still don't, I couldn't have predicted that. No.
Cynthia?
Very much like Amy, I was completely shocked. Came out in middle school, very just out of left field for me, very blindsided sort of situation. And when they're in middle school, they're going through so much. that it's also, I feel like that conflated a lot of things at the time when I think about it, in hindsight, but definitely very surprised.
So for the two of you that were surprised and had no idea, like what was your reaction and did anything surprise you about your response?
I will say I did not react well. When moms want to be perfect and wonderful, well, that was not the day. um, I was also about to start a new job the next day, so I was just already a little anxious that day anyway. So that probably didn't help. But it was because it was disbelief was my main sort of gut reaction to it. Um, just trying to talk, and I'm so close to my children. That was the other part that made me go, I am so close to you guys. Like, how could I not know at the same time? So there was a lot of that going on for me. I don't know about Amy, but that was my experience.
So when my son, he told me first, it was in the car, and he had been in just a very down mood for probably a few days. And I said to him, something's not right with you. Tell me what's going on, because I just feel terrible that you've been so down and I can't help you because I don't know what it is. And that's when he said to me, I feel more comfortable thinking of myself as a boy. And so, I think I'm pretty good at a poker face. It comes in very handy as a therapist. So I kept my cool, and I guess I must have asked him a couple questions, and I said, "Do you want to tell Dad?" And he said, "Let's wait a little while until I've, figured out what to say." And I have to say that I was sort of prepared without knowing I was prepared. I had been a middle school teacher, and I had taught middle school and high school, but most recently at that point had taught middle school, and one year had the administration tell me, you have a sixth grader coming in who is transgender. And so I just was like, oh, I got to learn all about this. I got to figure out, how to do right by this kid. So I had that foundation, which I think really helped me a lot.
Was it different with your daughter, or did you feel prepared when your daughter came out, or same kind of thing where you didn't have a clue?
Didn't have a clue. And for her, it was not such a resolute moment the first time, because she did talk about it, in the sense that she said she was sort of exploring the idea of it, but wasn't really sure. And then for a while, that seemed to go away. Like she didn't. She said, "Yeah, I don't really know." And so then it was maybe a few months later that she revisited it, I guess, herself, and then brought it back up to us. And I was like, oh, really? Because for me, it didn't make sense like it did with my son, if that makes sense to you all. Yeah. But now, now I'm totally comfortable with it. Yeah.
So, Christine, I'm going to ask you this question, even though I think I might know the answer. What is the emotion, right? And not that everybody has the same emotion. So, as someone that hasn't experienced this, I think of like, was it grief? Was it like, oh, well, that makes sense? Was it a little of everything? Like, were there expectations you were mourning? Like, I'm sure it's like all of the above and none of the above, and it's an individual thing, but none. Okay, so tell me more.
One of the complicating things for me is that my child was a foster child when he came out to us, and DCF and his biological family was not really thrilled. And
thrilled about him coming out?
Oh, not at all. In fact, they disagreed about it.
Yeah.
They did not believe it was true. And one of the social workers was asking me, like, what do you think this is? And I said, well, we kind of have three options, or some kind of combination of three options. he's going through a phase and he really admires my older son and they're really close and he wants to be just like him. And if that's true, my job is to just say, okay, I love you. Or this is a kid who's been kind of in an ugly custody battle for a while, and this is something he can control, in which case my response needs to be, okay, I love you. Or this kid is transgender, in which case my response needs to be, okay, I love you. So I didn't need to figure out like what was behind it. Like I just need to love my kid on his journey. And that's it. So I didn't really grieve the anything. I mean, sometimes I look at pictures of him and I go, "Oh my god, who was the idiot that put that dress on my boy?"
And you're like, oh, wait, it's me.
Oh, that was me. You know, but for me, I didn't, he just has been so clear about who he
Yeah.
was that it's just been, how do I support him on this journey and how do I make sure that he knows that he's loved and accepted and supported. But for me, I didn't, he just always was who he was. So
Yeah. And I should qualify my statement. When I say grief, I'm talking about, oh, this is a different thing, right? And not that that would mean you love your child or you don't love your child, but I would imagine that this journey is all sorts of emotions because there's the I love you no matter what piece. And then there's the, oh, this is different than I thought it was going to be piece.
well, early on, I did have, for me, I kind of felt this need to have an answer, to know what the answer was. And, what happens if we let him live as a boy and then later on he decides to transition? And I had a good friend sit me down and say, think that through. Like, how will that change anything for you? And when I realized that it wouldn't, you just kind of let go of needing to know the answer. Um, so there was that. Suppose there's a little bit of that, of just needing to let go of wanting to know what the right answer was
That
and
makes
just letting
sense.
my kid kind of guide me.
Cynthia, how about you? What was that experience like for you?
I think it took me a minute to figure out. It didn't come to it quick, but I do think I went through a sense of loss and grief
Mhm.
about what I had imagined that
Yeah.
child's track was going to be. And I had to
Mhm.
go, I got to let that go. Like, that's my thing. That's not their thing. And that's my issue if I can let it go. And the kid's the same kid, quirky,
Mhm.
funny, same kid. Adore this kid. So once I let that go, it was really my issue. So that was something I had to kind of get to, but it took me a minute to figure that out. But once I did, I was like, oh, good. It'll be easier for everybody that I have worked this out for myself.
Makes sense. How about you, Amy?
I think one of the strongest feelings I had initially was fear because we had moved not even a year before our son came out to us to the south from the north. And it was a job opportunity for my husband, and it sounded like a fun opportunity to try living in a new place. And so we found pretty quickly that there were a lot of cultural differences living in the South that we hadn't anticipated. And so then to have him come out as trans, just, it put up all the, danger signs for me because not only were we in a place where we were still meeting people and making friends, but we were also, because I'm a politics junkie, we were seeing what the types of things were happening in the government of that state that were going to directly impact trans people. And so to be there in the midst of that and have our kids come out as trans was a little terrifying. So it was really, feeling of how can I protect my kids from people who are going to be really mean and potentially try to harm them so that they can still, live the lives that they are entitled to live.
My name is Karen Shatafian, and I am a shameless coffee addict and empowerment coach for women, and my love language is authenticity. My mission is helping women unapologetically design a life they're in love with. Because what the hell are we waiting for? My website, KarenShatafian.com, has all my coaching packages and free offers like my midlife reclamation guide. In it, you'll find tools to help you decide how to create the most inspired and empowered version of yourself and your life. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram talking about ways women can show up for themselves after decades of showing up for everyone else. Join me as we throw off the shackles and live our best freaking lives. See the show notes for all the details. Cheers.
Just to cut to the chase, because I know people are wondering, we only stayed in that southern state for 2 more years after our son came out to us and hightailed it up to the Northeast. So,
Yeah. And I mean, Cynthia, you don't live in the, I know exactly which state Amy's talking about, but I'm not gonna out her.
Mhm.
I'm assuming, just because I know you pretty well, that your
Yeah.
experience was a little different. So I suspect it's really kind of state by state and area by area. Did you find any of that to be true in the state that you're in that Amy's talking about?
I mean, not really. I mean, I live in a metropolitan southern town, and that's probably makes a big difference. That I don't live in a sundown town, if everybody knows what that means, but that kind of thing is a big deal, and it's true all over the country. It's not just in the
Yeah.
South; it's all over. And there is a lot of protection feeling about being a parent of that, like that's everywhere, and in the current environment of the administration right now, it's very upsetting. So I feel a lot of fear in general, but it isn't the kind of it wasn't my processing with my individual. That's just the broad sense that I feel in general with having a kid who, I mean, if anybody who's not quote on the mainstream or in the majority of whatever is going to face obstacles like that, and you don't want that for your kid. It's just really hard, and as a mom you can't help but feel that way, like that's just a mother bear protecting her cub kind of feeling.
Yeah.
So
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, I have so many questions.
Go, girl. Be
And
free.
Ask away.
I just want to say, when I hear each of you speak, I mean, honestly, it almost makes me teary because, I'm a mom as well. And so, the love that we have for our children is next level. And even, Cynthia, when you said, well, I didn't really handle it the best, it's like you've still come to this point, where you are handling it the best. And so first of all, I just want to honor the three of you. Your kids are probably so incredible because of the three of you. I know they are their own people also, but I just want to point that out. And I love, Christine, how you talked about it as a journey. It's kind of their journey, and it's like that with our kids anyway, right? We're just, especially when they get to a certain age, it's like this is their journey and we're just kind of along for the ride. But I'm curious, like trying to put myself in all of your shoes when they did finally come out and make it known. They were still at tender ages. And was your response at all ever like, well, you're young, you don't know yet, or it's your hormones, or like, well, you're too young to know at this point? Like, was that ever a thought, or was that ever anything that any of you experienced?
It was a thought that definitely I felt, but kept in the back of my mind because I didn't want to make my son feel like I was questioning him when he knows himself better than anybody. So yeah, I did have that thought, but kind of kept it and maybe talked with my husband about it. Yeah.
I think my big fear was whether they were coming out as trans because they had some self-loathing of themselves. And I remember one time I had taken him out to pick out some shirts, and he had gotten a shirt with trucks and a shirt with sharks and a shirt with Minnie Mouse on it. And I was like, oh, well, that's an interesting choice. The next morning, he put on the Minnie Mouse t-shirt, and I was making breakfast, and he started screaming like his skin was on fire. Get it off, get it off, get it off. I can't wear this. It's pretty. And I'm like, what are you talking about? There's nothing wrong with being pretty. And he's like, no, 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 it has to come off. There were 3 little tucks on the shoulder, and I had to take that shirt off. He screaming at me. I don't want to be pretty. I don't want to be beautiful. I just want to be awesome. And that's when I was like, this isn't about self-loathing. This is just about knowing who he is, And for him, it wasn't pretty or beautiful. It was just being awesome. And so that for me has just been my job as a mom, is to help him be his most awesome self. And that's it.
Cynthia, you started to say something. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, I think that timing made it a little bit more of a confusing thing for me because, being an adolescent in middle school's the worst. I mean, I don't know if y'all had a great middle school experience.
Agreed.
I did not. And so I just remember that being like the pits. And so it was hard for me to sort of separate out, is this something that's really a self-actualization sort of statement, or is this like a phase, or is this something they're working through? So I definitely questioned that at the time, like just not feeling like, based on some historical things that had happened as well, as like, this doesn't track. It doesn't track for me. And I'm very a science background, tend to have a lot of logic things that I do, and it just didn't kind of add up. And so that was part of my working that out at the time. So, but, obviously just very wrong instinct because, he's very resolute of how he identifies. So, yeah.
So it's like, I don't feel like I should even ask this question because I think I know the answer, just in terms of how this journey has affected your strength. And I feel like I kind of like have a little tell on this because like I know you guys all, and I've known you forever. So I know you're strong women to begin with, and which is great. I think your kids needed that. So the question was, has this journey made you stronger? I feel like I already know the answer to that. But humor me. Go ahead. Share.
I'm going to surprise you and say not really.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I have been wrong many times in my life, and this was just one of many examples of just being like, oh, well, okay, I didn't do that the right way. I've done a lot of things not the right way, but how do you learn and bounce back and make it right? And that's, I feel like I'm the same strength person, I guess. That's just me. But
anyone else want to disabuse me of my notions?
I don't think it's me. I mean, I think I was always a good advocate.
Yeah.
That's kind of what, and so it just maybe changed what I was advocating for. But I was always going to be a strong advocate for my kids, no matter what. If anything, I have had to learn to pull back and let him, and because there are times when, I know that things aren't going well at school because somebody, another kid at school gives him a hard time, and I want to go in and just go after the other kid. And I've had to really let my son guide, what is said to the administration. And I have to really respect my son's desire to be stealth. I think that's been kind of the hard part, is when your kid, one of the advantages maybe of my kid coming out very early, we started getting medical support early. And so my kid passes very easily. If you looked at the baseball team, you would not be able to pick out which kid was the trans kid on the team. You just wouldn't. And if you didn't know, a lot of people don't. And for him, that means that there are teachers who don't know they have a trans kid in their class and have sometimes said some ugly things that they might not have if they had known they had a trans kid in their class. And that's a hard one to navigate because, normally with teachers, if my kid's having a problem with a teacher, my approach is to go to the teacher directly. But I can't do that without outing my kid, and my kid doesn't want to be outed. So often I have to kind of go to the principal and say, hey, this happened, but I can't approach the teacher. Could you please go handle it without outing my kid? Um, so I've had to use a little bit of restraint, which is not something I'm very good at.
I think for me, it made me not stronger necessarily, but more outspoken in the sense that I probably was more of the type of person who didn't want to make waves or ruffle feathers. And now I don't care if
Oh, I
I
am with
need
you.
to, yeah, if I need to speak up on behalf of my kids or, any oppressed group, I know what I need to do, right? And I don't care what people think anymore. Part of that comes with age as well, but I think it definitely made me much more outspoken and articulate about trans issues in particular. I Before we left that southern state, I was doing a little bit of public speaking and some press. And, I felt like that was my responsibility as a very, very privileged upper middle class white woman who knew that I could, in a heartbeat, move my family to someplace safer. I felt like it was my responsibility to make as many waves as I could while I was there.
You'll be very proud of me at the Pride Parade a couple of weeks ago in Boston. I went right up to a certain Democrat who was trying to primary our senator and just booed him right in his face.
Yep. Yep.
Nice. They live in the
Yeah.
same state, by the way, just so you know.
So I'm wondering if this changed your relationship with your child, and if so, how? And maybe it didn't. I don't know, but how did this impact, I guess, your relationship with your kid?
I'll go. I feel like have always been super close to both kids and still am. So I don't think it's changed the closeness, but I think we have different conversations, and the mistakes or the stumbling stuff that I used to go through, which I don't anymore. But it was always, you're trying, so that's what matters. And if you make a mistake, that's not the issue. It's, are you trying? Are you really, you're really recognizing it? And so that's always been the case once I sort of worked out the initial reaction. And we're just like, we talk weekly. He's up in Vermont, so I'm remotely talking to him and stuff. But I feel like we're the same closeness that we were. Same kid, kind of same awesome person. So just sort of a different reality for me, but same relationship.
Anybody else?
I'm pretty close with my son. And I think this is just something that we do together. I mean, we go to his appointments together. We talk about how it's going. So it's just another thing that we share.
For me, it was different, has been different with my two kids. My son and I were always a little closer than I was with my daughter. My daughter's neurodivergent, and there was a lot about her personality that was hard for me to grasp as she was growing up. Whereas my son was sort of, I say sometimes we share the same brain because he thinks the way I do. He sort of approaches the world the way I do. So with my daughter, with my son, it brought us definitely even closer together. But with my daughter, it definitely brought us closer together, in particular after I was a real jerk and said to her, when we go to my sister's wedding, because this was at the beginning of her socially transitioning, could you maybe not, you know? And yeah, she lit into me, which I deserved. And it really forced me to take a good hard look at how I had been treating her and how I'd been thinking about her transition, maybe not taking it seriously enough, because it had been less of an abrupt coming out as our sons had been. So after that, I got my bleep together and fully accepted and embraced her entirely. And that has made a huge difference in our relationship. So it's been a good thing, even though I had to get over being a jerk to get there. Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
And I just want to acknowledge the vulnerability and the honesty with which you guys are speaking about this experience, because I know as a mom, I have jacked some things up with my kids. Like I'm sure, they're gonna that's like 6 months of therapy, whatever I said or did or whatever for them, and it's not easy admitting, I think, when we as moms, screw it up. So I just appreciate your transparency in that because I think that activates something in me as well because I feel like I have some regrets about things I've done as a parent and whatever. And it's just like, hey, we're just figuring it all out, everything out as we go along, right? So I just want to thank you all for that.
Hey there, I'm Lisa Corricello-McDowell, your midlife Pacific Northwest princess, here to guide you in the art of next leveling your life. I'm passionate about women's health and wellness in midlife, especially for moms parenting kids with unique needs like I do. I truly believe we can learn, grow, advocate, and care for the planet while taking care of ourselves and our families. And I'd love to help you do the same. And I'm beyond excited to tell you about my membership for maxed out mamas just like me, the Empowered Parent Collective. It's a space for parents to confidently advocate for their kids, build inclusive communities, educate themselves, and find balance and support along the way. To find out more about the Empowered Parent Collective, my classes, wellness offerings, parenting tips, advocacy resources, and exclusive Drinks with the Girls goodies, head to nextlevellifewithlisa.com. Let's survive and thrive in the messy middle together.
All right, so we're going to do a quick round robin, y'all. So finish this sentence or these sentences. We'll start with one. All right, Amy, I wish people understood.
I wish people understood that it's not about the surgeries. It's so much more than that, and that's what people seem to run towards, right? And they want to know details. And it's like it's none of your freaking business, and I'm not going to talk about it with you unless it's a family member who maybe needs to know. Yeah.
Why do you think that's what people gravitate towards?
I think because it's for some people such an unknown, and they need to sort of like put that in a box in their head to make it make sense or something. Yeah.
That makes sense. Christine?
I wish people understood that asking about my kids' genitals is just not an acceptable question. I don't go around with a ruler asking you to measure your kids. So please don't ask about mine. And I think it's just they think that because we're talking about or acknowledging our kids' gender identity, that means we want to talk about their genitalia. We don't. We really don't.
Completely fair. Cynthia?
Okay, I hope I can articulate this well, but I feel like what people don't understand is the world frames how they think about things in terms of a gender. They start there. So, like, I'll be at work and people are like, oh, you have kids, boy or girl, daughter, son. They want to immediately know. That helps them go, oh, then I can imagine this girl with pigtails or bow or I don't know what, like there's just this framing going on. And there's a lot of origin questions that start there. And I just don't think about that way anymore. My whole way I think about all of that is completely turned on upside down.
Mhm.
I feel like it's a whole big continuum, and like, I don't know. I just don't think about the topic in the way I used to. And I realize that I'm in the minority because most people I interact with think the way I used to think. And I can feel it when they're talking to me. So that's a weird kind of thing to just always know when
Yeah.
when
I
you're talking about your
I
family or whatever.
I always love all those gender reveal videos,
Oh
and
my
I'll
God.
think, and I always think to myself, "Oh, you think?"
Just kidding.
Yeah.
But just wait.
Or when you see a sticker on a minivan that says #BoyMom, and
Oh
I
God.
laugh
And you're like,
and say, maybe now, but
maybe.
maybe not forever.
Perhaps.
That's so funny.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Oh, good Lord.
Okay, next question. So the biggest misconception is, Cynthia, do you want to start us off?
I'm not sure I know what that would be, but I'm imagining that um, that people think it has to do with some outward thing or some emotional thing, and I just don't think that. I feel like my mom said a long time ago when I was pregnant, I was like planning, and she goes, "Oh, like don't even think you're gonna have control over what this kid becomes. They're wired the way they're wired, so let it go," which was awesome advice from her, because it's so true, but it's way beyond what I even thought. If that was a personality comment, but it's, even more than that. I just think that they're born the way they're born, and you're, as a parent, you just need to love them and support them and figure out how to help them be successful, you know so I think that might be the misunderstanding, is that people think that there's something else there that's having that be part of the why, but I just don't think so.
To the extent that people that trans and non-binary children tend to have a higher rate of mental health challenges, that is not because they are trans and non-binary. It is because society rejects them. And it is the social rejection that causes them to have challenges. A psychologist said to me several years ago, we are only starting to study um, trans youth, and we are finding that trans youth who receive support early and acceptance early do not need support groups, do not need therapy. It is the societal rejection that creates those problems. So, really, just the more we can accept and listen to kids and support them on their journey gives us healthier outcomes.
Love it. Amy?
Yeah. So I wish people would understand that gender identity and sexual orientation are completely different
Oof.
things and can be completely unrelated. And that, both of them can be fluid over the course of someone's life.
Mhm.
And I think it's very hard for your average person who hasn't been forced to really think deeply about those topics. It's hard for them to grasp, but it really isn't a complicated topic. I think it's like what Cynthia was saying, that people have that need to categorize boy, girl, gay, straight, right? It's just not that simple. And yet it is. It's simple that there is no binary. There's no binary.
Amy, the hardest part of this journey that no one talks about is what?
I think one of the hardest parts is finding care for your child that is going to be the care that they need, whether that's mental health care or physical health care. It's so challenging. It, we left a state where basically you can't get gender affirming care anymore, to a place where it was easy as pie to get gender affirming care, and then it wasn't. And it's terrifying to think about the families that don't have the privilege and access that my family has had, Yeah, it's just really heartbreaking to think about that.
Christine, what is the hardest part of the journey that no one really talks about?
Knowing that there are people out there who hate and discriminate against my kid. Because if you knew him, like, if you know my kid, if you don't like my kid, there's something wrong with you. He's just such a he just truly is such a good person. He's a good friend. He's generous. He's kind. He he works at an assisted living facility serving meals, and when they have extra takeaway meals, he goes and delivers them to a homeless shelter because, he doesn't want food to go to waste and he knows people need food. He's a good student. He works hard. He's a good teammate. There's just nothing. There's just nothing to hate about this kid. And the idea that somebody could hate him because of his gender identity is just insane to me. Um, but you know that hate is out there, and you fear it, especially in this current environment. I mean, we all grew up in the '80s. I mean, I remember the day that Matthew Shepard was killed. Um, and so I see this kind of return to discriminating against the gay community, the trans community. And it is a scary place to be. I don't want to go back to people being bashed. I don't.
That's fair. Cynthia?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Christine on this one. And I'm not sure I can say that's a journey because I'm not sure it's going to be different in the future. I think it might still continue, which is alarming. But I just feel like there are a lot of people out there who really have because they don't understand something, they act very badly. And I also think that they don't realize how many people they actually talk to who they are offending at the time. Like they kind of think they're amongst these people who, hey, I'm talking to a bunch of cisgender people, so I'm just gonna, not that they even know what that means, but like they would just make a lot of assumptions, and they don't realize that maybe 2 or 3 people in that group of people they're talking to are completely offended because they don't realize how really prevalent it really is. And they're talking to a person who has a family member, or has a child, or a ex-husband, or whatever, who is they're talking about that person, and they have no idea.
My kid has
Yeah.
a coach who posts transphobic stuff all the
Yeah.
time on social media,
Yeah.
and he has
Yep.
no idea. He has no
Right.
idea that he has been coaching a trans kid for 3 years. No
Yep.
idea.
It happens just very, very common. Yeah.
And my kid is his favorite kid on the team. He has no clue.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of funny and not funny, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting back, like thinking about that, like all the little nuances of that. Also, like first of all, if the coach knew, it's like, would that be the thing that would open his eyes? On the other hand, not your child's place to, not your child's responsibility to change his views, but like, gosh, I just feel like I love where this conversation has gone, because people get so, they get their blinders on and they get so ingrained in what they think and what they believe. And it's like, if
you only knew.
exactly, if you only knew, if you only had an experience or something that forced you to take the blinders off, so you had to look at things a little bit differently, like, where could we be?
I love the
Go
poster
ahead.
that says, "You've been sharing bathrooms with trans people your whole life."
Right.
You just don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, I think that's a really good point because, I mean, I'm excited to continue this conversation. I think that what's interesting is not once so far have we mentioned, except for now, a bathroom situation. Not once have we mentioned surgery. And those are literally the 2 things that everybody thinks are the most important topics in this particular conversation. Period. That's all people talk about. Bathrooms and surgery. Period. End of story. And we've gone 45 minutes in this episode and not once has that come up. So I'm just going to let that sit there for a minute. Okay, last round robin. I guess I'll go. I can't remember who was last. Cynthia, what surprised you most about being the mom of a trans kiddo?
Oh, gosh, I'm trying to remember. Was I surprised by anything? I mean, I was surprised that, at the time, that was a surprise. I think that maybe what I can think about with family members is that some family members are really hesitant to recognize a identity. Like, I'm requesting to be called he, him, like that request being ignored, being like shocked, like being surprised that that was going to fly, you know, that's kind of been, or maybe that's dismay. I don't know if it's surprise or dismay, but that kind of thing, I still kind of sort of shake my head about. Or it finally, I feel like people are like, okay, I guess I need to do this. I look like the jerk. And I'm like, you don't look like one.
Newsflash.
I just think that when people request to be identified a certain way, that just do your best and try. Don't try to like blow it off and ignore it and think it's going to go okay. You just need to like really try and adjust. Like, I don't know why it's not that hard. You have to change your mental model and your like kind of muscle memory on some things because you get used to saying something. But if you're trying, at least with Eli, is like, if you're trying, then it doesn't make me upset. If you mess up, but you're trying, that does not hurt my feelings. If you're not trying, that hurts my feelings. That's the part that hurts me.
My daughter's high school has pretty much done away with singular gender identifying pronouns. Everybody is they and them, which I think is interesting. I think some people have feelings one way or the other, but I do love the idea that they're taking it just out of the equation.
Yeah.
Christine, how about you? What surprised you the most?
I think the thing that surprises me the most is that people think that because my kid is capable of masking and looking like everything's fine, that doesn't mean that everything's fine. And that's a hard concept to get to people. Like, yeah, he maybe sat through that class after the teacher said whatever, but that didn't mean he was okay, and it didn't mean it was an acceptable a thing to happen. So, and I think there are a few people in my life who surprised me in their inability to be flexible. And those people are just no longer part of my life. Once you become a mom, your priority is your kids. And anybody who can't be a constructive part of that is just not necessary in my life anymore. And I'm fine with that. Because my kid knows he's loved. And that's it.
Amy?
When I was in that initial phase of, accepting my child coming out to us, but feeling terrified for his safety, what really surprised me were, when I would share with people who I felt maybe would be safe to talk to about it, how totally chill a lot of people are when you tell them you have a trans child. Because, it was 2019 when he came out to us, and I didn't really know. It was just not something that I had thought enough about or talked to enough people about to know what is the temperature in society today about having a trans kid. I knew a few people who had trans kids, and I was like, okay, fine, no big deal. But my concern for my own child's safety, when I was having to decide who do we share this with, it was surprising when people would just be like, oh, okay, that's great. How's he doing? Yeah, awesome.
So refreshing, right?
It's very refreshing. Yeah. And to have gone from a southern state where I had to be so careful, or felt like I had to be so careful about who I revealed that to then come up to Massachusetts. And, we chose the community and the school that we moved to so carefully, and to be able to put my guard down because there really weren't hardly any people who I had to worry about. And maybe that seems naive, but it was such a different atmosphere. And that was a big surprise to me. Not just people who were okay with it, but people who were vocal about how wrong it is to oppress trans people. That was a wonderful surprise too.
Wow. Okay, listeners. Well, if you think there's a lot more to talk about, that's because there is. So we are going to transition to the Patreon part of our conversation, what we like to call Drinks with the Girls After Hours. And I think this episode illustrates that there's always something to share when the public audience goes away. So we are headed to After Hours. We are going to talk about all sorts of good stuff, from advice that these moms would give to other parents, how having a transgender child has changed them, what their families said, how to have the hard conversations, all sorts of stuff, and we're going to get into it. So you also get a front row seat to our rapid fire segment, Spill It, because really After Hours is where the podcast ends and the real conversation continues. So pull up a chair for the rest of the conversation and head on over to our Patreon. And if you aren't a member of Patreon, first of all, why not? Second of all, we are so pleased that you're here and that you've joined us for this conversation. And we will see you next time on Drinks with the Girls.
Well, we've reached the part of the conversation where we probably should stop talking.
But we never do.
We really don't. But hold up. You're probably wondering where the rest of this episode went.
I got you. This is why we have one brain. We've launched Drinks with the Girls 2.0, and it's over on Patreon. We've realized some of our best conversations happen after we've officially wrapped things up.
This is where you'll get the end of the conversation plus early access to all the episodes so you never miss Last Call.
You'll get the stories we probably shouldn't share, the things we weren't planning to say, the random rabbit holes that somehow become the best part of the conversation.
Basically all the stuff that happens when the microphones are still on, but we're no longer behaving ourselves, like that ever happens.
And best of all, you'll get in on the ground floor of the rocket ship that is Drinks with the Girls 2.0.
We've been teasing this for a while now, and it's finally here. You'll get to own your very own slice of Drinks with the Girls 2.0 and help us launch this sucker into the stratosphere.
So if you'd like to pull up a seat for one more round or join us for a coffee date, come join us on Patreon. The link is in the show notes.
We'd love to have you, and we're saving you a seat.
Wait, why are you still here? Head over to Patreon and join us now.